Hello, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Kevin Dumas. I'm the town manager here in Mansfield, and here today to be able to talk about something that's upcoming, this upcoming Tuesday, which we're having a special town meeting, which hasn't been had here in Mansfield for quite some time. But we have two guests here today because they have two matters of business that's actually going to be on the special town meeting warrant that we have right here. And that's going to be with our school superintendent, Teresa Murphy, and our fire chief, Neil Boldergini, and to talk about a couple of their items, why it's important, and why we need you to be involved as members of our community that come forward, because this is your government. You have a say in what happens here in Mansfield, and to help us get the work done of the people by you and for you. So today, I'm happy to have both of our guests here today to talk about a little bit of their capital improvement program. I know that we just did a refresh CIP before the committee and working with all of you and going over our projects. But Teresa, I'd like to open it up to you to talk about the items that are going to be on the warrant article for our capital improvement and how that affects our schools and why it's important that these items be considered for funding this year.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me here.
Sure.
I'm delighted to talk about this. It's a project that I've been working on since actually February vacation, when I brought a group of our school staff together with our fire chief and our police chief and some members of their teams, and we were looking at school security. And although we have, I feel, done a good job maintaining and putting some policies and practices in place, there's always room for improvement. And so since February, we've been working on prioritizing what we would like to have to improve our school safety and security. So what we're bringing forward to our town residents on Tuesday night at town meeting is a school safety package. It is comprised of 5 different items. So first off is a public address system at the high school, which may sound like, someone might say, why would you consider that school safety? But right now, folks will probably remember that our high school is almost 50 years old. And so a lot of the infrastructure is that age, and among that is our public address system. It is a system that is inconsistent at best. We have put quite a few dollars into it over the last couple of years. It needs a total overhaul. And so we are asking our townsfolk to put in $100,000 so that we can have a new public address system. Right now, about 40% of our school students and staff can't hear announcements in the event of an emergency. We would need everyone hearing the same message. So communication is a key, and so that is on one of our items.
And you don't think about it until you have to get a message out to everybody and communicating with staff and students how important that really is. And the fact that when I think there was an addition of a wing they had put on, and the PA system was never run down that section of the building.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And we have worked with our public safety officials over the past couple of years. We've improved communication practices with walkie-talkies and cell phones. And so among individuals, we have a better system, but across the school, we need that at the high school.
Especially in today's light of security and things that can happen in schools. We've seen if there's a lockdown or a lockdown in place or whatever the case is, that you need to get that message out.
Correct.
And it needs to be loud and clear for sure.
Correct. So that is one of the items. Another item is door security. And of course, we have keys to our doors throughout all of our schools, but we are looking to upgrade and have a more sophisticated system. And that system includes door fobs. A door fob is an electronic key, you might consider it, and it is a way for us to control access to the building. So as we assign a fob instead of a key, a traditional key, to a staff member, we would be able to control when they would be able to access the building. If someone were to leave a door ajar, then we would be able to identify who has done that and be able to correct that action. We'd be able to provide door fobs for some individuals who work sometimes. For example, We have some coaches who may work for only one sport. They may not be our own traditional employees as teachers,
Correct.
but they are here to coach our students in some of the athletics. We can assign that fob. It would only work during their tenure. And if an employee were to leave, their fob would be shut off. So we would have much better door security. During the past year or so, we've put in some short-term solutions because at one point we were leaving doors wide open, but we have much better door security, but this would be a permanent solution. Some might say, well, you do have these fobs at the high school. They're actually an antiquated system. They can't handle the level of security that is needed. So door fobs are on our request. They are $100,000 to be able to outfit the 4 schools on the East Street campus.
The thing that I really appreciate is the work that all of you have done is that you looked at it as a comprehensive package. And I know that a couple of the items you'll be talking about today, but you really looked at it holistically throughout the district. And
another point I'd really like to mention is that I'm not doing it in isolation. It's not Teresa Murphy who has done this. It is Teresa Murphy is speaking now and as spokesperson at town meeting on Tuesday evening, but it is truly a team effort. It is our public safety officials who we have partnered with for many years. It is our facilities department. It is our financial folks. It's everybody in our schools, police, and fire who have worked with us.
Absolutely. And that's how you get the best result.
Absolutely.
Right? So your next item, I know that also with the doors, you were talking about cameras.
Yes, we have, right now in the high school and the middle school, we have a number of cameras, security cameras, that are interior through the hallways and exterior cameras on the grounds. We have not had cameras throughout our district, and so the request for funds is to increase the number of security cameras we would have throughout the district. I believe that it will obviously keep things safer. Certainly, for example, at JJ and Robinson, we have exterior cameras that are connected to a monitor so that folks who are opening doors from within know who is outside and wanting to gain entrance. But these would be other security cameras placed throughout the grounds and also through the hallways.
Excellent. Another thing when you're looking at who's coming in, I know that you're also taking a look at how do we process the information and what does the badge system look like versus what you have today?
Yes. We are looking to implement a visitor management system, which sounds pretty fancy. What it is are the software and the hardware to be able to provide information and also provide a name tag. Right now, if you come into our schools, for example, if a parent comes in to drop off a lunchbox because someone forgot it, then you come into the office and you drop that and then you leave. But we have a number of people who are volunteers in our schools, student teachers in our schools, vendors who come into our schools, and they are in the building and they're walking around. Right now, what we have are name tags that you can buy at Staples or Walmart. It's hello, my name is. And what we are looking to do is to beef that up. So if someone comes into the building, to one of our schools, and they are going to be visiting for any length of time, then we would take their ID, it would scan it, and a name tag with picture ID would be prepared. They are rather sophisticated systems. So for example, it can also do a SORI check instantly, which is a sexual offender check. And so it would have capabilities to be able to really do a comprehensive, but quick, screening of those who are coming into our building. And again, for the parents who are dropping off the homework that was forgotten or the lunchbox, they will do the same procedure. Come in, check in, and be in and out.
Well, you think about how many people actually come in and do business within the schools that are there for a certain amount of time, and how easy it could be for someone just to be able to have the hello, my name is tag on versus an official ID that's scanned. And everybody knows, unless you have that new scanned with an image on it with your name,
That's right.
that person doesn't belong there.
Because all of our staff members already have name tags with their photos on, so this will just beef it up for us.
Absolutely. I know another project that I came into when I came on board in January, that for the year prior, the town meeting had appropriated $1.3 million for a project at the high school, and that we're asking for some more money because once we've gone through feasibility, some things have changed. So if you'd like to elaborate on that important item this time.
Certainly. And if I can say, the package, the security package that we are proposing and bringing to town meeting on Tuesday night is, if approved, these are items that we can immediately implement from November, December on through June. Come June, we have a huge project that's going on, and that's what you're referencing, and that is that the back wall of the high school, the wall that overlooks Alumni Field, will be coming down. It is a curtain wall, meaning that it is non-load bearing. It is a wall that's mainly for aesthetics, again, built in the late 60s, primarily aluminum and windows. And the windows have been what is failing. And so that entire wall needs to come down. My predecessor, Zeph Giannetti and Micah Hearn for the DPW, wrote a grant with the Mass School Building Authority a couple of years ago, and it was approved as a project for Mansfield High School. You're correct in that we had come forward to the town, requested that $1.3 million. Once the School Building Authority has done their work, the engineers, the architects, all of the folks have done a thorough analysis and study. They have given us their final plans, and we do need additional funding for this project. So it would be an additional $800,000 that we are coming to the town and asking for. It is a pricey project, obviously, $2.1 million. However, it is a project that is needed. We need to bring those windows up to code. And so it is not just aesthetics, it is not just for the looks, it is definitely safety and to bring it to where it needs to be. What I need to keep reminding folks is that because it has been applied through the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, Mansfield will be reimbursed up to 50% of the project. So it is, we oftentimes hear people say, well, can you go for some grant money? Perfect example, we have.
And it's a hefty grant.
It is a hefty grant, yes, but very much needed. But again, we are going to the town and asking them to support that for us on Tuesday evening.
And it's important for people to note that we can't continue on with our project.
Correct.
And I can't sign the legal document for the agreement for us to proceed until we actually have this authorization in place. So this is a real big item on top of the school security package for Tuesday night, that we really need this in order to proceed so you can be on schedule for construction this summer.
Absolutely. It's going to be such a massive undertaking. It's exciting to see what will be accomplished over the summer. But you're right, it's pivotal for this.
Absolutely. And Chief, I know we've spent a lot of time going over capital projects, and certainly for your department, when you get into the replacement of vehicles and apparatus, you're the most expensive in the town just because of the pure size and what the piece of equipment does. Like I know we've talked about, in the future we'll be addressing at our next couple of meetings coming up in May and then also in November of next year, but that when we're looking at making retrofitting or making sure that we're doing a full rehabilitation, for example, in the platform truck, it's a very pricey option, $400,000, and that'll be coming up in 2019. But right now, for what's coming next week, we're talking about the replacement of an ambulance. And I don't think that a lot of people realize, the number of runs that your staff do on a daily basis, the number of mileage that goes in the vehicles, what happens, and how crucial it is for us as a town to continue on a replacement cycle. So if we can talk a little bit about that today.
So when we look at ambulances, the ambulances are the single busiest piece of equipment that we have. They go on every single fire call, and they go on all the medical calls. So when we look at our engines, while our fire trucks might do, say, 20,000 miles in a year or 30,000 miles in a year, our ambulance easily could do 50 to 70,000 miles. We just got a new ambulance in July of this year. It already has 15,000 miles on it.
Incredible.
Incredible, right. So when we look at the number of runs that we do, We are on pace this year to do 4,000 runs or close to it. That is a significant amount of rounds for our town. That's double what it was when I started as chief. It's just taken off here.
Wow.
So when we look at the amount of EMS calls out of that, not only is the ambulance going on the fire calls, but the EMS calls in that, which take more mileage to it because they have to go to the call and then to the hospital and back again, we're looking at around 72% of all of our calls are EMS calls. So roughly when we look at 4,000 calls for service, in general, we're looking at well over 2,000 calls for EMS, clearly more than that.
Incredible.
So when we look at ambulances, we've tried to get, we knew that we needed ambulances on a pretty rapid, repeated basis. And the replacement schedule was done one for pretty much every other year. We needed to look on every 2 years, essentially, a new ambulance had to come in place. We have 3 total. One runs as the main piece out of North Main Street, and that takes the bulk of the runs. But we also have Plymouth Street. Now, Plymouth Street will take the second ambulance run that comes in. As you well know,
Right.
Simultaneous runs are a big issue with us.
Exactly.
We do almost half of all of our emergency calls are simultaneous runs, which is mind-numbing. And so in that respect, the ambulance out at West Mansfield at Plymouth Street does a significant amount of runs as well. So for those 2 pieces to be on the road, we also have one that's a backup. Because when you put that kind of mileage, you tend to break down. So we have a backup piece, which is strictly reserve piece, and that's up at the North Main Street station. So if one goes down, that piece takes its replaced while we get the service done, so we don't lose. Sadly, it's a bit of a business, so we don't lose revenue. And more importantly, we can provide that service to the townspeople. So we have 3 total. The new one with 15,000 miles on it is clearly the best of the bunch. The other 2 have 108 and 100 and almost 30,000 miles respectively.
Wow.
When you look at an ambulance, 3 to 5 years is your max that you're going to get out of it. And at 100,000 miles, they begin to break down, and we see that.
Right.
So we look at an increased amount of money for repairs, we look at it being out of service, we lose revenue as that way, and we don't provide the service that we need to provide for people. So replacement schedules really have to be point on, so any deviation from that can really throw us off. We had a little bit of a delay prior to you coming in,
Right.
And that has hurt us. And we had a replacement schedule in place, and one of our ambulances actually blew a motor.
Right.
So the one that I was looking to replace, I had to keep with extended mileage on it, and the one that needs a new motor is just not cost effective to repair.
Exactly.
So that's really kind of the state of our ambulances as we sit now. And when we look at an ambulance, it's not cheap. We're looking at somewhere around $350,000 to buy a new ambulance. But that needs to include, and does include, a cardiac monitor. That's a 12-lead cardiac monitor that can communicate with the hospital as we're doing the procedures.
Right.
It also includes what's called the Lucas machine, which allows us to get into a house, puts this machine on a patient. It does a 100% efficient compressions on a patient while we move them. Typically, if you're on a second floor, we have to pick you up, move you down steps. You can't continue CPR, and that can take up to 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the house or location you're in.
Exactly.
So that's critical time. Our save rate here in Mansfield is ridiculous. We're upwards of 43% on our save rate. National average is around 20.
Wow.
So I know we're doing things right. We have some of the best paramedics in the area here working for us. To be able to give them the tools, it costs that kind of money. In addition to those 2 tools, we have other things in there. OEMS becomes a part of this. OEMS is the governing agency for the entire state for emergency services.
Right.
And OEMS is required more and more things as time has gone on. It's added to the cost of ambulances. 2 of the things that they've recently come up with is a power cot, which means the cot has a motor on it that picks it up and down. It helps prevent back injuries, which, by the way, it has in our department. We've gone from truly a significant number of back injuries to almost none this last year. I think I had one back injury that was no time out of service as a result because of the cots. And then the other thing, and the more expensive thing, is the loading system for the ambulance itself, which actually secures the cot as you're beginning to put it in, picks it up, and puts it in. And frankly, there's no way around it. That's now the code. They have to have it, so it adds to the cost of the ambulance.
Exactly.
So while the ambulance itself doesn't cost that much, all of the things combined, putting into it, do.
A big price tag.
Huge price tag. It is, and one of the things that we're going to try to do in this next one, if it gets voted through, is we're looking to change the body style. We've had a van-style ambulance for years. It's very effective, but it isn't really built for the load that's on it. So there's a tremendous amount of weight. There's a lot of movement in that weight.
Right.
So we're looking at a truck, a chassis body that's a little more, has a little more beef to it, and that's going to sustain that weight better. And we're hoping that's going to add to the longevity and
Right.
maybe extend the time periods in which we really need to truly do our purchasing like that.
Sure.
So that's effectively where we are for the ambulance.
I think it's also important for people to know that while it's a $350,000 price tag, that you've worked to keep $100,000 in your ambulance revolving fund to go towards the cost of the project. So we're going to be seeking the rest for a loan authorization in this town meeting.
I think that's a really good point to make, that, you know, I mean, the priority for us is service.
Right.
How do we help people? I mean, that's our calling, right? And you as well, and really, truly, even you.
Absolutely.
And but beyond that, you have to make it sustainable for the town, because we have the taxpayers in mind.
Absolutely.
So for us, and we've worked together on billing rates, and we've worked together on how we do these things, but the end result is our ambulances pull in somewhere roughly around $1 million to $1.2 million per year. That's a significant amount of money. So it does offset the cost of what we need to do to move forward.
Exactly.
And that money has to go back into the operations.
Absolutely. You just can't take the dollars and do something else with it. We've got to constantly look at how we reinvest. So whether we're reinvesting into ambulances, fire trucks, or we're reinvesting into our facilities and school security, or the building itself, or the curtain wall project, we need to be able to look at how we're doing it. And that's why I appreciate the work that all of you did, well, all of our town departments, in putting together a refreshed capital improvement plan, and that's a living, breathing document. And we've got to find a way together in order to try to get these things funded off the schedule, because we know once 1 year goes by, the next new of the 5-year plan comes on, and we have to worry about how we're going to be funding that. So hopefully that, you know, from the conversation, the dialogue we've had today, just to give people a little bit of knowledge about what are these items, what is the work and investigation that goes on behind the scenes in order to be able to get to the point where we actually make a request. You know, there's a lot of realignment and investigation that goes on and to make the final decision, and I appreciate the work that all of you have done in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so for our people, certainly that we ask for your support. We really need you next Tuesday night on the 13th at the Mansfield High School Auditorium, and that's going to be for 7 p.m. And for dealing with a lot of other budgetary issues, some budgetary transfers, the funding of our capital projects that we certainly talked about with our two departments here today with us, and a myriad of other issues that we need to be able to address as a matter of town business. And we need you. We need the citizens of Mansfield to come out and help us in that endeavor. And so we ask for your support, and we ask for you to come out and help us with our special town meeting here in Mansfield on Tuesday, November 13th. Thank you so much.